Hello from your favorite Grasslands PR team. Today is the end.
What? Oh my God.
Of the year. And we are back with some reasons why, yes, our overlooked and underappreciated ecosystems are objectively the best biome, but we're also here to talk about what happened in this very eventful year. I'm Allan.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Nicole.
Yes, this is going to be a sort of year in review episode where we cover the many things that have changed in the state of our world's grasslands, primarily through the lens of
what's close at home for us, I guess. Yes, this is the State of the Grasslands report here at the end of the year. You'll notice we did a report at the end of last year, too, wherein we made a lot of predictions, which were honestly not predictions. They were just us literally reading what the plan was for this year. Mm-hmm. And shocking none of us, all of it came true and worse. So that's just a little bit of a teaser for this episode. Now, we know that this episode is likely to be full of doom, which is why we have a special guest on our podcast today, the Doom Kalimba.
Hi, Doom Kalimba.
Hello. The Doom Kalimba is here to function as a peaceful buzzer. Whenever we start to feel a little bit too much doom, we're allowed to buzz or intone. Mm-hmm. Intone the Doom Kalimba, which will necessitate somebody taking a deep breath, having a pause, and pulling out some good news to talk about to balance the doom.
Indeed, because there is good news to be had, and there's, I mean, honestly, a lot of it. It's just perhaps here, as someone who cares for the environment in the United States, these last 11 months have been like, it's been trying to keep up with everything is sort of drinking from a fire hose, right? It's just every single day there's new and bizarre decisions made by our leadership and possibly with major consequences.
Definitely with major consequences. People have died.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
Just as an example. I have examples of how Lee Zeldin has killed people.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Yeah. And just to clarify, when we chuckle, we don't think it's funny. It's just our way of getting the bad feelings out. So
yeah.
I think we're all anxious laughers. Yeah. We giggle when we're overwhelmed with how disturbed we are. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Nicole. Mm-hmm. Yep. Ooh. What else can you do? Well, actually, there is stuff you can do. We've got notes on that. So.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also a great point. Just to kind of roadmap where we're going to go with this episode, we've sort of broken up, and again, we're not going to cover everything that happened. Mm. That's not possible. There are resources out there, and we'll connect you with them to help you, if you're interested, to review everything that has been going on. And we do invite you to engage with that as much as you're able or interested in, because it's worth knowing. But what we're going to talk about is some key significant impacts that are happening right now that are most relevant to our best biome, but also to our, larger environmental health and our human health. So,
yeah. I think it's fair to say that as one of the most overlooked and underappreciated ecosystems, whenever we see people discussing looked at and appreciated ecosystems with such disregard that you can almost certainly guarantee that grasslands are just being bulldozed without any fanfare, because the same policies apply to those spaces, but they're just seen as undeveloped real estate,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to begin by talking about some of Trump's his key protection rollbacks, things that he's specifically done to erode the sort of bedrock of American conservation law. Then we're going to look at checking in on where the attacks on science are, followed by an update on Trump's EPA, what's been going on there. And then we'll round out with Trump and his attitude, his impact on our public lands. So, where do we start with this thing?
Protection rollbacks. Yes. Is that on, Nicole?
It is.
Oh, boy.
So, there's a lot when it comes to Trump's protection rollbacks, but I kind of focused on the Endangered Species Act since it is actively being attacked right now, and we have some action items for you to make that slightly more palatable. But this is very similar to what happened in 2019. We talked about it in our last year in review episode, and it was, again, laid out in Project 2025. It isn't horribly surprising that it happened, though it did happen very, very quickly. And a quick rundown and some reminders if you haven't heard about this in a while, or if it's maybe the first time you're hearing about it. The first kind of prong to this is that economic costs to protecting a piece of land or protecting an animal must be considered when making that decision. Before, it was based solely on the best scientific and commercial data available. But now if a company comes in and says, well, we could log that though, then it's just going to be logged. More than likely. We're making some assumptions and making some, perhaps dramatic statements, but also we know from prior experience that there's a lot of truth in this. Mm-hmm. So,
for additional clarity on that, it was or is still currently, because those are proposed rules changes, they have not gone into effect. Mm-hmm. That's important to know. And by the time this episode goes live, you will have time to comment on these regulation changes, these proposed rule changes. But it was expressly or is expressly forbidden in the text of the law for economic considerations to play any role in these environmental conservation decisions. So this is a rule change that is literally contrary to the written law of how this should function.
Yeah, and it is a huge... just a drastic shift in the mindset that, they've always, the approach of the ESA always to use the best scientific data. It is a data-driven approach to conservation. Yeah. That's why it's been so successful. Like, it is, bar none, the most successful piece of conservation legislation ever passed in this country. Mm-hmm. So to modify it to say, well, we have to consider the impacts of not developing something when deciding, okay, are we going to protect this animal and its habitat? It would make a lot more money if it was condos, or we could make a lot more money off an oil well here. Yeah. That is a factor that would have to be considered. Yeah. And that makes it's
very disingenuous because obviously condos are going to be more profitable for somebody than leaving our public lands untouched. Mm-hmm. But that's not how we measure. It makes no sense and ignores all reasons why you do conservation.
Right. Well, and like Nicole said, if they want it to happen, it will happen, because when you're doing an economic analysis, it's very difficult to quantify the dollars and cents value of protecting something. Yes, we have ample data that the outdoors and nature provide a huge economic boost. People, recreating outdoors, people just going out to enjoy wildlife, things like that. It's a huge proportion of the GDP. It's incredibly valuable, but it's really difficult to quantify, especially when you're stacking it up against, an economic analysis from a developer who's saying this is the exact amount of money that we could get from this space if you let us develop it.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to account for all the ecosystem services too. Like, how do you put money on the fact that groundwater has a place to go and can recharge aquifers, and that we have like carbon sequestration.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the math around that stuff is bogus, honestly, as I'll talk about later.
Yes. But yeah, I think the public comment period on that just opened. It was a couple weeks ago in November. Yeah. So, and there's a 30-day public comment period there. So there's definitely an opportunity to let people know how you feel about these proposed rule changes.
Yes. Yeah. The comment period ends the 22nd. So
Of December.
So yeah, there a little bit more time, but it is really important that you get those comments in. I'll talk about that in a second, and we have links in the show notes. But yeah, it's really, really important to say something. It feels like it isn't, but it is.
Yeah, even if they ignore it, which I've heard people use as a reason not to bother. No, it matters to be on the record. It matters to show how overwhelmingly unpopular it is, and people freak out in politics when they see that. So
yeah, go yell at your government when you disagree with them.
Yeah.
That's really like that's a great thing we get to do. So please do it.
Yeah. I heard just today actually that, as depressing as this might sound, that maybe perhaps the comments don't matter, but if it gets passed, those comments become, like you mentioned, public record, and they can be used by, people in the future to try to revert this. It can be used by lawyers to say, here's all the reasons that was a bad idea, here's how unpopular it was, and you did it anyways.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it also becomes something that these people have to answer to come the next election cycle. Like, hey, this had 98% public support, and yet you opposed it. Can you explain why? And at a certain point, it becomes very difficult for them to justify it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Another part of this rule change is that threatened species, and this happened in 2019, threatened species will no longer be protected under blanket protection rules. So currently, if a species is designated as threatened, it has a certain rule set that will immediately begin covering it and protecting it. This rule change means that each species will need to be looked at individually and a species-specific plan developed, which on paper doesn't sound bad, but one that takes a lot of resources and time, and it makes it easier for individual species to just not have the protections that they need. Because rather than everyone getting some kind of protection, it means that like this species gets a lot, this species gets very little or none. So realistically, that is what is going to happen.
that's the intention.
Yeah. There is also a critical habitat designation change where if critical habitat is decided, this is habitat that this species needs, that can be vetoed should economic concerns arise. And the only way to override that veto is to prove that losing that piece of habitat would cause species extinction, which is basically impossible to prove for 99% of species. Unless every single individual is in a spot, I mean, that's the only way that you could prove that this is going to cause species extinction, and that is the only way to override the veto.
Not endangerment, but like you have to verify that it would become extinct.
Yes.
If they did, if they took this action, it will result in the total eradication of a species.
Yes.
Well, that's so stupid because, I mean, these people are probably going to look at zoo animals and be like, well, they're still alive, so, like, fucking bulldoze this. Who cares? It's so, and it's like removes one of the actual reasons why this is a powerful piece of legislation, because you cannot conserve without conserving land. You cannot conserve without conserving habitat. And so removing habitat from the idea of species conservation, if there's any money to be made from destroying that habitat, is asinine.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason the ESA worked.
Yeah.
And especially with so many grassland animals needing so much space
Yeah.
because they're migratory, or birds, like
Yeah.
sure, if you destroy all of the wintering ground of this bird, it's not going to go extinct this year, but like they won't be able to winter anywhere, so like what are they going to do next year? You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Well, it's an impossibly high like burden of proof to me because I mean, when declaring a species extinct, I mean, still it takes years to decades for them to be able to actually say, "Oh yeah, this species is gone."
Yeah.
You can't really preemptively say, like, you can say, "Well, this will like
harm them.
harm them. It might put them into like a quasi extinction, below a quasi extinction threshold." But you can't like. It's something you can't actually prove. You can't actually demonstrate. You know what I mean? It's so yeah.
No.
But that's the point.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah. So hate that one. And then there's a lot of updates around wildlife consultations that are, currently required. If there's a federal project going on and we think that it's going to harm a species that is protected, then you have to do a consultation. You have to, talk to a bunch of nerds, see how much it's going to affect them, and then you can move forward from there. But the definitions have changed and those consultation rules have been significantly loosened to allow more harm, even by federal projects. So it's not just, there's a new oil rig going up and they need to see how much this is going to harm them. But even federal projects will basically not be required to have any kind of a wildlife consultation done. So,
Which, like, what? The thing that strikes me about all these proposed rule changes is that they're directly in conflict with how the law is written.
yes.
And that's the point. They're trying to basically say, like, we can overrule what the law is because we want to. And it's just wild because like the law is very explicit. The Endangered Species Act is very explicit about how this regulation is going to protect species and work, how it can be done, how it cannot be done, and how the scientific evidence behind it supports those rules. I do think that there's probably going to be legal challenges from the things I've seen if these rules do go through, which there's no indication that they wouldn't go through. Yeah. Because it's literally it's illegal.
Right.
It's not that stopped them, but it's just bizarre to me that we're living in a world where that would be allowed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, these things are enshrined in law by Congress, by the legislative branch. Why can they be unilaterally undone by the executive?
Yeah. Or just ignored when they want to.
Or just ignored. Because again, like there's where's the enforcement against violating the law?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the main question of this entire scenario we're in? Yeah. Yeah. Boy, howdy. Well, anyway, thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
How's that Doom Kalimba doing?
The Doom Kalimba is vibrating a little bit.
Ooh.
It's sensing some doom.
Okay.
Wait, was there more to discuss? Do we?
I think you'll really need it after this next part if you want to wait.
Let's wait.
Okay.
A close to home story of protection rollbacks.
God damn it.
Oh, yeah.
Is the story of our lovely prairie chicken. The lesser prairie chicken lost its protection just this year.
Kansas participated in that.
Yes. Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas came together to say, Fish and Wildlife Service, you're dumb. And it basically, my read on it, and the read of people smarter than me, it came down to Fish and Wildlife Service attempted to make peace. And instead of saying that this entire species should be protected, they separated them into different populations and said that they had distinct population segments, which is like a law term written into this piece of legislation, distinct population segments. By separating them out this way, it means that, one population might have very, very little restrictions, whereas others might have much more strict restrictions around them. And rather than people being like, oh, cool, you listened to us last time we complained about this, they went, well, scientifically, not that they know anything about science, scientifically, that's not correct. And really, you should be considering the population as a whole. Even though that's what they did last time and people got mad.
Yeah.
So Fish and Wildlife has until 2026, and they will likely refile in November of 2026, considering that they are all one population and pushing them to be threatened rather than endangered, because that's an easier listing theoretically to make happen than endangered. But then again, all of the rollbacks of what it means to be threatened means that even if they are listed in 2026, it might not matter as much as them keeping their protections now. And again, they have already lost that. There are a lot of organizations like the Lesser Prairie Chicken Landowner Alliance, which are doing really, really good work. So I wanted to highlight them. And highlight that people really do care about these birds and they care about the land that they're on. And so, not only is this destroying legislation, but it is going against, maybe not the popular opinion, but an opinion that's not a small one. That, these birds need a very distinct landscape to survive. And it has to be healthy. And a healthy landscape means, healthy cattle and things like that on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Having the land be good for prairie chickens means it's good for ranchers and it's good for people. That's just how it is. It does mean that you can't put an oil rig on it. And so a lot of big corporations are pushing these bills through. And we know that for a fact. It's not us just making guesses.
Yeah. And if I can dispel the myth for a moment of this type of rollback and regulation protecting the little guy, the little guy is always getting the bad end of the short end of the stick. Is that the phrase? Yeah. Because this is not supporting landowners. If they cared about supporting landowners who are doing conservation work, they would do stuff like eliminate or raise the cap on payment for ecological services through the Farm Bill. Yes. They would be supporting landowners in their work with more things like the Inflation Reduction Act, which largely went to those types of areas to assist them with conservation of grasslands. That is not what they're doing. In fact, they're rolling all of that back. Mm-hmm. And the people who are benefiting from this are not the little mom and pop farmer. It's the corporate owners of land who are buying up property in rural Kansas. It's the foreign landowners who don't even live in our country. It's the out-of-state landowners who are on the coasts who buy up our real estate, don't give a shit about prairie chickens or grasslands or our landscape, and they just till everything to plant row crops for short-sighted profits. Mm-hmm. This is corporate interest cloaked in this conservative myth of we're going to protect the little man from the big government. Yes. And it's a lie. It's a grift. It's a farce. We see that time and time again. Even the Fish and Wildlife Service doing their best to, in good faith, work with property owners to, list the chicken in a way that would work for Kansas landowners was used as we got you. Now you have to eliminate all protections because you tried to work with us. There is no good faith working with this mindset because it is all a corporate grift, extracting our resources, our land, our landscape from right underneath us. And it is going to happen. Audubon of Kansas saw that, and they do a lot of work with lesser prairie chickens here in Kansas. That's where most of the population is, here in Kansas. That's one of the things they use, they being lawmakers like Tracy Mann, to roll back these protections. They justify it by saying there's tons of us in Kansas, right? The last time Trump rolled, or, I guess it was a judicial rollback of regulations on lesser prairie chickens, immediately the next year, there were oil rigs up on centuries-old leks, gone, unusable, centuries. We don't know how far back those go. Thousands of years. Those sites are gone, eliminated. Row crops planted, just habitat destruction immediately because they want to get it done while they can. And so there are long-term consequences to these short-term rollbacks. There are long-term consequences because the grifters who are robbing us of our grasslands and our healthy ecosystems and our healthy landscapes are just going to rake up as much as they can to extract as much as they can during this next year. It's going to happen. It's already happening.
Yeah.
And it has got to stop. And we've got to start calling them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we see in practice that it is not to support the American farmers and people who are, working and conserving the land themselves. Because, I mean, just this week, we have, a $12 billion package to essentially bail out American farmers to shield them from the policies of this administration, from the effects that this administration is having on their bottom line, on their livelihood.
Which happened last time.
Yeah.
They also had to bail out the people they're supposedly trying to help. And you've got landowners, ranchers, and farmers who are on the record right now literally saying, we don't want bailouts. We want to have functional markets to sell our crops to. We want to do work. Help us do our work. But the administration doesn't give a shit about that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, they're actively taking the money away that they could be using. And people get scared of, the ESA and similar protection laws. But if you actually read the species specific plan put in place, because 99% of the time there is a species specific plan, it's not just the blanket protections that are put in. There's, exceptions to be made for landowners to continue using their land. There's exceptions for a million different things. The ESA primarily, quote unquote, hurts the big corporations, and that's why the big corporations hate it.
Yeah, it's all propaganda. It's propaganda from people who want to make profits, to make you feel like you're being strong-armed by the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not true. People just don't like being told no, and sometimes you have to be told no. Obviously, you're gonna freaking destroy the planet. My God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think of it the pizza party analogy for wealth inequality, where it's you have 100 people over, you have 100 slices of pizza. The first person in line takes 96 of them.
Yeah.
It's like that, except now they're asking the host if they can have the 97th and 98th piece as well. It's just,
and also the house.
Yes. They're just trying to, it's just that. It's nothing more.
Yeah. And then convincing us that they're giving us pizza slices back while they take them away.
Yeah. They give us a crumb and they're like, "Ooh, look how nice I am."
Yeah. Oh, you got some dusty Parmesan cheese. Aren't we so generous? This has been in a drawer for 17 years, but it's yours now. Thank you for the pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, the Doom Kalimba.
I did that a little loud.
It shouted. Oh, now it sang.
It shouted.
Oh. What is it, Doom Kalimba? What are you trying to tell us?
We need some levity. I'm going to start crying about chickens.
I know. That's why I was like, maybe you should wait.
I like chickens.
I know.
Somebody tell me good news.
I have good news.
Go, Nicole.
This one is a good example of why your voice matters. So there is a really, really cool article that I found looking at 35 different conservation funding bills, legislature, things like that were being passed across the U.S. These all came to a vote on November 4th, and 33 out of 35 of them passed. And this is going to generate over $2 billion in funding for conservation, for Parks and Rec, over the next 20 years. And I think that this is a really, really powerful story because it shows that when we show up, we can make a difference. These weren't necessarily, I mean, some of them were small, but again, that's $2 billion in funding that has been guaranteed to conservation and to protecting our public green spaces all across the U.S. because people showed up, people were mad, and they voted.
Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. It is guaranteed. It is enshrined in law. $2 billion in funding. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big cynical slice of pie in my heart that says that doesn't fucking matter. But.
Well, these are local ones. These aren't. These are local.
My bad.
Yeah, these are local. This is like Colorado. This is like Denver, Colorado had one in here.
Oh.
Yeah, these are not federal. Okay. These are state and city.
I think I blacked out while you were opening it up because I was trying really hard not to cry about prairie chickens. So I somehow missed that.
No,
part.
No,
okay,
you're good.
Thank
I might say.
Yeah, and I mean, an important point, right? Yes, the federal government is up to some nonsense, but you have a lot of impact at your local and your state level.
Yes.
You know, go yell at those people too. Don't just yell at the federal government. Okay. Yeah. Some of those people are hanging onto their seats by literal hundreds of votes. So they need to listen to you when you have something to say.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And your local reps are beholden to you. I had coffee and donuts with one of my Kansas reps recently because he lives in my district. And I was like, hey, do you want to have coffee and talk about like laws and stuff? And he was like, sure. And I was shocked, and we did that, and we talked for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Nice.
Every time I've reached out to a local, rep, they're like, okay.
Yeah. I was like, I got so much more respect for you, and I understand how your brain works now. So the next time I see you, we're going to be able to have some good, like, productive conversations.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see what matters to you.
Yes.
This process doesn't have to happen like without you, right? It's not a show up to the voting booth once every, 2 years kind of thing.
Yeah. Or 4 years.
No, 2 years. Really, check every year to see if there's local elections. Also,
please. It really, and because I did a lot of phone banking and things, there's a lot of really cool resources out there to make it as easy as possible.
Oh yeah.
Not every state, but a lot of states are still offering like mail-in votes. So you can just check, I want to forever have a mail-in vote on your, state website, and then they just send it to you, and then you can drop it off or send it back. I drop it off because I wait to the last minute still, even though I'm doing mail-in votes. But you could be better than me and just mail it in, and it makes it really, really easy. You don't have to wait in line. You don't have to worry about, trying to get off work and all that stuff. It's becoming easier and easier to vote.
Yeah.
So
it depends on states.
I know what you're thinking.
It does depend on states. It does.
Yes.
But yeah, look at your resources because you might be surprised at what is available.
Nice. Very good. Thank you, Nicole.
I do have some additional rollback related news. I'll just go through pretty quickly here. I think data speaks louder than anything else. So rather than talking about the policies that have been enacted, I'm going to point to a study that was released, October, I think, which showed that America's carbon emissions are now rising, which is in contrast to other parts of the world and also our recent history. And this is a direct, frankly, disgusting result of the current energy policies being implemented. And new data also shows that America's methane emissions are skyrocketing. So there is a tangible impact in our air quality and, other metrics by which we measure our climate impact that we can directly attribute to these policy changes. I also want to note that even the new national security strategy document that the Pentagon released like last week boasted about how climate change is woke and not real, and that we're abandoning any goals related to it as part of our national strategy. That's explicit, and it shows in the data. As a side note, I find this absolutely wild. We're going to talk more about like the climate denialism becoming our political reality when we talk about Lee Zeppelin. Zeldin. I don't know why I keep trying to call him that. I want
Zeppelin is a cooler name.
No.
I think it's because it looks on paper quite a bit like Led Zeppelin.
You're right.
But it's Lee Zeldin.
That's exactly what it is. Allan, you're a genius. But anyway, it's wild because it doesn't reflect our reality. You know, like we can have political talking heads saying that it's not real as much as they want, but like American corporations who insure homes absolutely believed climate change is real because they're trying their best to figure out which houses they don't want to insure because of climate change.
Right.
They want that data so that they can make good corporate decisions about which homes will be underwater in the future. Literally, communities in Florida have like 10-year action plans for sea level rise as a result of climate change because they have to. They can't pretend it doesn't exist and put their fingers in their ear and go, la, 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 you're woke, because like the sea is coming for them. And so like their policies reflect that because like they live in reality.
Yeah.
And so I just find that bizarre. Anyway, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a pretty cool act, it took basically the entire Biden administration, what's it called, term? It took almost the entire Biden term to get enacted. It was the first time we've had like a climate change specific policy move in the United States. And a lot of climate change powerhouses were involved in making that a reality that worked for everyone. Something like 80% of the benefits economically were going to Republican districts. But that's being repealed so thoroughly that there is an IRA tracker where you can look to see how bad it's gone. And obviously it's being destroyed, even though it benefited mostly constituents of the current administration. Finally, a note on rollbacks that I think is important to talk about is that there is a new playbook taking effect during this administration, which goes beyond repealing and removing regulations and seeks to actually make those rollbacks permanent. That is a strategy that we're seeing over and over and over again in the regulations and the rules changes that are being proposed. As an example of why this playbook goes back, honestly, even further than just this administration, back in 2024, again, our Kansas rep, Tracy Mann, introduced a law that failed to repeal lesser prairie chicken protections, which sought to permanently restrict it ever receiving protections again in the future. Which is
a truly wild choice to make.
Yeah. Another example is that in the current arguments by the Department of Justice being presented in lawsuits, they're currently trying to argue that no one has the authority to create and enforce environmental law altogether, not even Congress. I have a quote here from Abigail Dillon, who's an environmental lawyer who has been behind some of the most impactful climate change lawsuits that have been successful in recent years. She has a really good op-ed that was published in Rolling Stone back in July called I don't have the title of it actually. Anyway, she was on the episode What Now for Climate Law, published by What If We Get It Right, the podcast version of the book by the same name. She said, quote, "We are arguing about the fundamentals. Now we're not even arguing about the policy. We could come out of this time with neither presidential authority nor congressional authority to create and enforce strong environmental laws." And so that is a top to bottom strategy, which you heard a lot in what Nicole was talking about. They're really trying to repeal stuff and then pull the ladder up behind them to make it as hard as possible for anyone in the future to undo the changes that they're making now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's right. It's unscientific, and it's to say like, oh yeah, well this species will never need conservation assistance ever again. It's fine forever. Don't think about it. Mm-hmm. That's not, that is not a position of critical thought. That's not a position of, it's absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is that, like, the more they make it hard for us to fix things. I mean, when we're talking about conservation, you really can't go back. It's especially devastating for something like environmental law and conservation work.
Yeah.
To say, haha, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, now you have to start your report over from scratch is insane. Just as one example.
Yeah.
But yeah. So keep an eye out on the current arguments being made by Department of Justice lawyers. They are trying to set the precedent that there's no constitutional authority to even regulate the environment that we live in, which is wild. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
A final note is Grasslands specific. There have been 2 attempts to pass a North American Grasslands Conservation Act, which is modeled off of the Wetlands Conservation Act, which has been very successful. If you're not familiar with how Congress works, because I've been learning all of this recently, so I'll spare you having to figure it out. Every time there is a new Congress, everything that did not get passed that was on the books prior gets wiped clean. So even though at the end of 2024, Nancy Mace did introduce, and I believe we talked about this in the last episode at the end of the year last year, she did introduce the North American Grasslands Conservation Act again. It did not pass. It died in committee. And at the end of Congress, that wiped out. The current Congress has not made any attempts to reintroduce it. Work is still being done on that. There's obviously a lot of work being done in general right now, though. So I'll continue to keep my eye on that process, but I don't have any high hopes at the moment.
That's fair. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Kalimba at all? No? Kalimba's good?
I'm good. What about you guys?
I'm fine.
You're the ones who had to listen to this. Okay. Great. What's next?
Well, I think we're moving on to our look at just how the Trump administration is its behavior towards science, just as a broad discipline, and the integrity of the scientific process. So
Grifters hate data.
Yeah.
they do. Almost immediately at the beginning of this administration, we saw just widespread freezing of federal spending and especially federal grants. Now, in our State of the Grasslands episode last year, we talked about what a large percentage, like the importance of institutions like the National Institute of Health and the National Science Foundation directly fund a tremendous amount of scientific research.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, across all disciplines, right? All matters of science, you're getting a huge amount of published, peer-reviewed information from these grants. It directly boosts our knowledge as a species, right? It's like, so, but yeah, there have been widespread freezes and widespread cuts. As it stands now, as the New York Times is reporting, the level of NIH and NSF funding is lower across all disciplines of science now than it has. It's about 25% lower in the Trump administration than it has been the last 10 years on average. And that includes the first Trump administration. So they've really hammered it. Currently, 5,415 scientific grants are frozen. A lot of organizations have taken that to court because it is unlawful. But only 1/3 to 1/2 currently have been reinstated by a court order or a preliminary injunction, according to Grant Witness. So again, that's a lot of research that's just been halted in its tracks. Exactly what the Union of Concerned Scientists last year had voiced concern about. So it's also important to remember that the Trump administration has also made a lot of moves to conceal scientific data, or to outright remove it from public availability. The Sierra Club actually filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration for just over the sheer amount of climate data, accessible climate information that was being taken away from federal websites. Who knows what's happening with that data? Who knows where it went? But just, it is the equivalent of just, putting it behind a curtain and saying, don't worry about that. Right. Which is embarrassing. This is like, this is just, they should be embarrassed to do that.
Shame is a useful emotion that more people need to feel.
Yeah. It's like, they're, I don't know. It's like they're trying to have it both ways, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, oh yeah, it's a hoax. It's whatever. But also don't look into it too much because we can't have you actually looking at the numbers. Don't do that.
It's so telling. It's so obvious.
Right.
It's like, trust us as long as you don't look at the data. Like they can't even be bothered to release economic reports. That's how deep the science denialism goes. They won't even use like social sciences and economic sciences. They won't release any reports. I just saw this morning that one of the many administrations that has not released any economic or jobs reports has like, well, we're not going to release this one either, but don't worry, we're totally going to roll this into the one that was due back in like August, and we're totally going to release it in January, we promise, as a joint thing now. And I mean, it's like the truth still exists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's some approximation of what reality is can be found through the process of science.
Yeah.
And so if we just ignore that, and then I guess it just becomes whatever we say it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you remove all the funding to learn more, then you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. Speaking of learning, around 80% of those initial grants frozen they were connected to STEM education from the NSF. So that is incredibly disappointing. We as environmental educators, you can't condemn that in strong enough terms. And the entire reasoning for why those were targeted is largely just because of, education is by design a diverse, equitable, and inclusive activity. So obviously when they were, I guess just hitting Control F to figure out which grants to get rid of, those were the ones they landed on.
Yeah. And a lot of these, I'll talk more in depth about the Big Beautiful Bill in a minute, but a lot of those were included in the Big Beautiful Bill. I went through and read too much of it. Well, it's 300 pages. I didn't read the whole thing. The final document was over 300 pages. But some of those, things that were cut were things to address air pollution at schools, funding for the low emissions electricity program, greenhouse gas corporate funding, environmental and climate data collection, like low carbon materials for federal buildings, the green and resilient retrofit program for multifamily homes, aka letting poor people upgrade their houses and giving them money for being good to the environment. Like, literally just, again, anything that's vaguely DEI, they're like, schools don't need clean air.
Right. It's insane. Like on its face, it's insane. A lot of this is tied up in the courts right now, but we'll just have to see how it shakes out. If you are a scientist, obviously, please protect your data. And please report what's happening to you to somebody. Report how this is affecting you. We've seen, this year we've seen federal scientists have actual science fairs in the halls of Congress
Oh, I
to
didn't see that.
let people know, like, hey, like literally standing there with a poster board, like they're, you know, like it's like they're in 8th grade, and saying like, hey, this is what I do. This is what we're losing when I don't have funding.
That's so
This
cool.
is the information that you know, we are being deprived of.
Very powerful.
So yeah, you know, we gotta let people know. Yeah, and again, my whole theme here is just you gotta yell at people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This might be like an accidental bit of good news, but this is so related that I'm going to go ahead and share it. But just 4 days ago, as of this recording, MAHA activists, like Trump's people who are interested in human health, urged Trump to fire Lee Zeldin because of all the cuts he made to like making people healthy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you've got a large contingent of people who don't want to, you know, consume
Poison.
various chemicals in their water. You know, who don't want to be breathing smog constantly. You know,
Is it bipartisan to like breathe air?
you know, yeah, actually, the status of status. I don't know why I got English there for a minute. The status of science under this administration is it's bizarre, and it's, you know, we'll have to see how the myriad legal battles turn out, but just keep an eye on what's going on, and please protect that data. Do not let it be disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are people doing work on that too. Just another like little accidental piece of good news is recently, like September or October, 85 scientists released that joint review of the U.S. Department of Energy's climate report to say that it was biased, full of errors, and not fit to inform policymaking. So the bad science being done is being directly called out, and we should elevate those voices as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
What's that, Kalimba? What'd you say? Wow. Tell us more about that, Kalimba. Does someone have some hope for the Doom Kalimba?
Maybe.
I don't know why I'm talking like I'm on a PBS
I
kids
love
show,
it.
but
I love it. Do you want me? I can do another one. But...
do another one.
Do another one.
Okay. This one is Grasslands specific, very specific story out of Australia. Researchers at the University of the Sunshine Coast in New South Wales announced in September, I think it was September 11th, somewhere in there, that after over 10 years of research, they have finally developed a single-dose vaccine for koala chlamydia.
What?
Aww.
Oh man, that's
This is good news.
that is really good news.
Yeah.
Because in case you didn't know, or if you don't listen to our other educational podcast,
Filthy
chlamydia is an extinction level threat to koalas. So this is really great that they're finally getting taken care of.
animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was anxiety laughing again. That's,
Yeah.
It's not. It's a serious matter that koalas face against chlamydia.
It's a really horrific death. Like they
It
go
is.
blind.
It's terrible. It's
and,
terrible. Yes.
Say while laughing.
This is why it's good news.
God.
It's
Yes.
really good news. Yes.
But yeah, it was just approved this year for widespread use. But a study last year found that the vaccine decreased death rates by 64%, which is incredible.
That
'cause
is
I'm
wild. Yeah.
pretty sure it's like 100% death rate.
Yeah.
Or very close to it. And in related koala news, a large section of forest was just protected also in September, and it is called the Great Koala National Park. And it was born to protect critical habitat from logging specifically, and it is part of a larger habitat corridor in New South Wales. So
Nice.
Wow, good job,
brand new
Australia.
park, brand new vaccine. Go koalas.
Incredible.
Nice. The Kalimba is pleased.
Oh, good.
Can I share a good news also?
Yeah.
Just for extra more balance. Because even though the United States of America is just pumping pollutants into the air. That's not true everywhere else. There was a report that came out that in China, which freaking huge industrial manufacturer, and their CO2 emissions have actually been flat or falling for 18 months, which is a huge, huge thing. And this is not a report coming out of any biased sources. This is from like an independent analysis for Carbon Brief that was published by Lori. I can't pronounce her last name.
Great.
So that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Other powerhouses who are like what a lot of people consider to be on par with the United States. I don't know if that's true. It's nice to see that other industrial powerhouses are able to do good.
Yeah.
Related, India and Pakistan are doing some really cool shit with green technology that they're getting from China because of all of their green innovations. So, while other rich countries like us and parts of Europe and Canada are refusing to take responsibility for making the world better, a lot of poor countries are.
Nice.
Which they shouldn't have to. But like, I just want to emphasize the fact that countries without the economic resources of the United States are making tangible climate movements. They are making progress in ways that are like measurable and exciting.
Yeah.
Creating entire power grids that rival what the government produces, like in communities locally through solar panels. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. So it is a choice that we are not.
Yes.
Right.
And don't let anyone tell you different.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's, that leadership on the global level has to come from somewhere. And it's great that it's, there are other countries that are still taking this seriously. Other very large, very populous countries that are holding a stake in this while we have dropped the torch. So it's good. It's great that it's being picked up.
Yeah. I really like following Bill McKibben's climate newsletter for stuff like this because he does a really good job of keeping an eye on what's happening globally with specifically green energy moves and stuff like that. He also reported on this article that came out from Samini Sengupta and Brad Plumer from Bellum that, quote, countries like Brazil, India, and Vietnam are rapidly expanding solar and wind power. Poorer countries like Ethiopia and Nepal are leapfrogging over gasoline-burning cars to battery-powered ones. Nigeria, a petrostate, plans to build its first solar panel manufacturing plant. Morocco is creating a battery hub to supply European automakers. Santiago, the capital of Chile, has electrified more than half of its bus fleet in recent years. Unquote.
Nice.
So a lot of really cool stuff being done, also proving that it's not expensive and it's not a detriment to move away from gas.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thank you for those two lovely doses of hope there. I did want to bring it back to the dark side because what's coming up next is our discussion of Trump and the EPA. And just as sort of a segue, because this kind of straddled two different topics, the EPA has obviously been a mess, and I know Rachel and Nicole are going to get into that in greater detail. But the one thing I wanted to touch on myself, since we were just talking about attacks on science, is that the EPA's Office of Research and Development was closed earlier this year. Over $700 million in funding that went to studying things like, toxins, the effects of wildfires, how human health impacts of all number of environmental contaminants, just the and the extent of environmental damage, from storm events and things like that. Good information to have, one would say. is that even remotely worth the savings? Losing that information, especially since, I mean, there are new inputs into the environment every year, and it's if people are not, if we're not keeping up with measuring and analyzing the impact that we're having, it's not a great situation, right?
No.
We are the ones who are going to pay the cost for that in a much more significant way. So, yeah, that's a bad one.
Yeah. Data is very inconvenient when you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's the only reason to strangle data is if you're wrong.
Yeah. What a succinct way to put that. Yeah. So and obviously there's, there is no other compelling reason to close an office that provides that kind of information unless, it's directly opposed to your business agenda, which is sort of the theme over there at the EPA, as I'm sure we're about to find out.
Am I next? Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. So I'm going to start off by talking about who's in charge of the EPA because he's a little bit of a, this is my personal opinion, psychopath. Lee Zeldin is the EPA administrator currently. I've seen him referred to as the EPA czar, and I'm honestly not sure if that's an official title or one of those Department of War type things where they're just trying to say it until it sticks. But just know that those two terms are being used interchangeably. We knew that Lee Zeldin would be in charge. I think we talked about him in our last State of the Grasslands or whatever it was called that day. The most notable news about Lee Zeldin, apart from his excitement and maybe even zeal over canceling all these grants, has been the announcement, this was back in July, I think. March. It was way earlier. March 20th is when an article was published by Georgetown Environmental Law Review. The title of their breakdown of it was "The Single Most Impactful Day of Deregulation in EPA History." And I love this author's subtitle because it's very biting. So shout out to Jack Hatzimemos for this. Quote, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced the agency's intention to reconsider 31 regulations for the purpose of revitalizing the American economy and auto industry, arguably neglecting the EPA's environmental protection mission.
Yeah.
So as a note, this announcement about the 31 regulations that they intend to review or repeal was an intentional document. Like it's about intention. It's not law. Mm-hmm. It is not enforceable, but it does paint a very clear picture of what the EPA's goals are under Lee Zeldin. The 31 regulations that it announced it's going to reconsider back then are split into 3 categories, which will sound familiar to all of us. Number 1, unleashing American energy. Number 2, lowering the cost of living for American families. And number 3, advancing cooperative federalism. Basically, it's everything we've talked about already, which is extraction of resources from public lands without any regard for environmental protections or safety for human life. Mm-hmm. It's about repealing Biden stuff that has to do with clean energy. Mm-hmm. And it is about, the last one is privatizing, essentially, as many resources as possible that the federal government provides, which is another way of extracting money from the American people instead of serving us. They also announced that they're moving forward with terminating all Biden environmental justice and diversity, equity, and inclusion arms of the EPA, which they mostly did, as far as I know. And the rollbacks were also going to look at reconstituting the Science Advisory Board and Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee under that like Advancing Cooperative Federalism title. So they're basically trying to wipe out people who want to do the work of the EPA and replace it as much as possible with people who can make a profit from stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've cut something like 23% of the staff, or at least that was part of their initial plan, was cutting 23% of the staff at the EPA. That number may have gone up. I don't know. But like, yeah, you're losing a lot of seasoned, competent professionals, putting a brain drain on the organization and replacing them with people who are, it is a kind of a smash and grab type situation.
Yeah, absolutely. We're being robbed, frankly. Mm-hmm. So some other notes, I want to just pause to mention some of the consequences of these cuts because, like I mentioned at the beginning, people have died and are being harmed directly by these policies. A single example I'll give has to do with some catastrophic flooding that hit the village of Kipnuk, Alaska, back in September 2nd, I think. CNN reported that the disaster that took place there was exacerbated by the lack of weather data because of cuts made and a critical shortage in weather balloon coverage in the area. Here's a quote. Earlier this year, the administration canceled a $20 million Biden-era Environmental Protection Agency grant awarded to the community, that specific community, to prevent flooding. Maxine Joslow and Lisa Friedman of the New York Times noted that when EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin cut grants this year, he boasted that he was eliminating, quote, wasteful diversity, equity, and inclusion and environmental justice grants. And that directly impacted the catastrophic flooding that occurred in this one village in Alaska. And that's just a single example. Mm-hmm. He's also been on the record stating some pretty insane things. When he did his announcement in March about these 31 regulations, he boasted that it was the greatest day of deregulation our nation has seen. That's a direct quote. And here's another direct quote from him. "We are driving a dagger straight into the heart of the climate change religion to drive down the cost of living for American families, unleash American energy, bring auto jobs back to the U.S., and more." As a reminder, the job of the EPA is to protect Americans from deregulation, basically. It's to protect Americans from the threat of an unhealthy environment. Yeah. And the current EPA's mission, apparently, even though it's still the same on the website, last I checked, is apparently to like bring back industry jobs, which is also wild because some of the things being repealed that were Biden era climate-related actions created 400,000 jobs.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I see, if we make this factory, we're going to make a bunch of jobs used as a win so much. But it's like, you destroy that forest. Where do the park rangers go? Because they don't have anything to teach about anymore. It's like, right. It all has consequences, and you can't just, again, it's lies. It's obscuring the truth. It's,
I mean, we had spoken, a few episodes ago during our soil remediation episode this year about EPA Superfund sites, and the externalities that business creates can have a huge impact on communities. I mean, these are things that will cost us more in a human toll than we would possibly make, especially us as regular Americans. Whatever the benefit we would ever see from it is far outweighed by the environmental and humanitarian cost of it.
Yeah. And just as a reminder for our listeners, if you're not familiar with this, the reason why there has to be an equity, justice, and inclusion section of the EPA is because historically it's like disenfranchised communities, it's impoverished communities, it's minority groups who are hit the hardest by environmental degradation. They're not building industrial factories in the rich white neighborhoods. They're building them in Black communities. That's what they've always done historically. That's why there has to be justice and equity in our environmental efforts, because certain segments of the community, our American neighbors, are more impacted and need more remediation to correct those harms.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's important. We can't just pretend like that doesn't exist. Yeah. Also, getting back into the doom and gloom, we never left. Why am I saying that? This is, I'm going to steal words from Bill McKibben again. He's a climate activist. I've mentioned him before, because as much as I can get other people's words out, I think the better to know that I'm not just stating my own opinion. When discussing Lee Zeldin and the Trump EPA decisions that are being made, he said this, that the point is to try and, quote, make that decision permanent so that some future administration can't work on climate either, without going through the long and bureaucratic process of once again finding that the most dangerous thing on the earth is in fact dangerous, unquote. So basically they're trying to like put as many hoops as possible in front of future efforts to throw everything back to the starting line. Like, if you want to re-regulate these things, you're going to have to do the work that's already been settled to prove that it's even harming us in the first place.
Yeah. Which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But again, take the money away so you can't even do that. So it's like,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and the staff and everything else. Like,
Yeah. There is some pushback to some of these things. I really appreciated when this regulation announcement first came out, this Georgetown Environmental Law Review that looked at the proposed regulations, because they had some good takes that made me feel like it wasn't quite as doomful as it is. As an example, a lot of politicians have condemned the words of Zeldin and have accused this version of the agency of, quote, abandoning the EPA's responsibility to protect the environment. Just straight up, they're not doing their job. And then a former Obama administration EPA administrator called the rollbacks the, quote, most disastrous day in EPA history. And again, the intentions aren't necessarily law, but they're like working on implementing all those things, as you know. Also, even though the EPA is ultimately overseen by the executive branch, there are some routes that could help push back on their action or inaction in some cases. One thing that the reporters from this law review pointed out is that the overturning of the Chevron doctrine could bite them in the ass. So yeah, the idea here is that this is a bad decision, but the overturning of Chevron, which had formerly granted deference to agency action in the absence of direct congressional approval in a given matter, could be used here to say that the EPA shouldn't just be able to unilaterally do whatever it wants as an independent agency without congressional approval.
nice.
So
Yeah. In theory, yeah.
We love when they don't do the research.
So yeah, I don't know. It's all bad. On to the next thing.
Oh gosh, I wanted to add very, very quickly, as part of like all the EPA nonsense, the Schedule F reforms that we did talk about last time, and I feel like a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's not going to happen," like this thing in particular, but it did immediately. It wasn't just that. The original EO came out January 20th. It came out very quickly. By May 29th, we had a new merit hiring plan that put forth new essay questions that you have to answer when you're applying for a federal job, including how are you going to support the Trump administration? Like, that's a question that you have to answer to be a park ranger or to work for the EPA. Like, how are you going to support EOs and the Trump administration?
If the Obama administration did a single one of these things.
When I was watching this happen, and I didn't realize how bad it really got, like, that was one of the scariest things, like, for me, is just, like, the complete overhaul of everyone that works in the federal government to be loyalists to the administration. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
No, that's like an authoritarian playbook stuff. I don't know why I'm hesitating to say that, but it's bizarre that we even have to discuss whether that's true. But like, that's what dictators do.
Right.
And that is very alarming.
Yes. Yeah. In July, just as one example, the National Parks Conservation Association reported that there's a 24% decline in permanent workforce at our national parks. That is about 1,000 park rangers lost. And that's not including all of the seasonal people that were immediately fired upon Trump taking office. Anyone that had worked in a position for less than 2 years was immediately fired because they were in, what was it called?
Probation.
Yes, the probation period. Anyone that was in a probation period, that doesn't mean, oh, you messed up and like we're looking at maybe firing you. That's just, are you a new employee? or were you recently promoted? Because when you are promoted, you are also on a probation. So anyone that was in a probation period was fired immediately. No questions. There was supposed to be 8,000 new seasonal hires over the summer. And as of July, only 4,500 about of those had been filled. And then, of course, hundreds of other conservation jobs and Fish and Wildlife Service, BLM, all those things. And I want to, like, it's really easy to find the information for parks. And it's more than just people losing, like, their dream job and this job that they've worked really hard for. Like, that sucks on its own. But it's also raising a lot of, loss of interpretation and sanitary conditions in the parks. It's loss, like literal loss of cultural artifacts because they're getting stolen or destroyed because there's no one there to like watch over them. It's safety concerns when people get lost in, the freaking Grand Canyon and no one's there to save them.
Yeah.
A historic lodge in the Grand Canyon burned down.
Yeah. Like if you look into it, there's so many stories like that just from this year. I didn't look into it because I didn't want to get more sad. But it's like, it's not just, oh, someone lost their job, boo-hoo, we're cutting government spending. It's like, people are dying. We're losing cultural artifacts. Like, it's so much more than that.
Irreparable harm. And the institutional knowledge that's lost when you eliminate the workforce.
Yeah.
Like, you're losing people who know that just cannot be understated in its importance.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And it's
in
not
any position.
Yeah. It's not like they had 30 days. Like, they came to work on Friday and Monday they were gone. Like, they didn't have time to teach someone. They didn't have time to spread that knowledge. Like, they were just gone.
Yeah. They didn't have time to yeah.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. Oh. I see the kalimba's rustling.
Oh, what's that kalimba? Oh, okay. The kalimba says we're being too doomy again.
What?
Who's got something?
No.
I had one thing.
You shared one.
I had a couple things, but one of my and I'm biased here, and it's not Grasslands related at all.
What? Is it dirt?
No.
Oh.
What?
Why'd you sound offended by that question?
No. No. Green sea turtles, guys. You may have seen in the news earlier this year, just a few months ago, green sea turtles. What?
They're not listed anymore.
They're not listed anymore.
Wait, is that a good thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They've gone from endangered to least concern. Their
Listen,
population.
No, fair question.
Thank you. Like, we just spent a lot of time talking about how the Endangered Species Act was losing its teeth and doing bad things. So I just wanted to make sure that was like
this is not
scientific.
This is not a political decision. This is from the IUCN. Because their population has grown so much since 1972. Or what was it? Hang on.
Are you saying that environmental action works?
Hang on. Yeah. Yes. So their global population has increased by 28% since the 1970s. The ICN has moved them from endangered to least concerned. And yeah, Rachel, that is a testament to the power of collective action and global cooperation. Because I don't know if you've ever I've worked with sea turtles before.
People freaking love sea turtles.
People love it. There is such a huge volunteer, base for that, for monitoring nests, for protecting nests, for helping with, when the nests are erupting and breaching and things like that. It's really inspiring. And it's not just in this country. It's all over the place because green sea turtles have a huge range. So it's, people all over the world love these animals enough to dedicate their time and effort and their expertise to protecting them, and that has an effect. So,
yay!
Yeah,
that was good news. Thanks, Allan.
Sure.
Welcome back, everybody. We just took a little bit of a break because we have human bodies, and I hope you enjoyed that musical interlude I'm sure our editor put in. Now that we're back, Nicole has a knife and is looking very scary, and I believe it's her turn to tell us horrible things.
So Trump is destroying our public lands in more ways than we've already talked about. He's not only destroying funding, I do want to talk about that real quick, just to give us an idea of our proposed 2026 budget. Includes over $3 billion cut from conservation programs across the Department of the Interior and the Department of Ag.
Those are huge.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah. $900 million from national parks, $564 million from USGS, who does keeping us healthy and keeping farmers happy and fed and money and stuff.
They do a lot of climate change research too.
Yeah.
As somebody who's worked for them.
Yeah. Which is probably where most of it got cut, but BLM, who manage a ton of land, has a $198 million cut. And one that kind of surprised me was that the NRCS, Private Lands Conservation Operations, aka directly you and me and people that have land and farmers and things like that, have a cut of $754 million coming their way, a proposed cut coming their way in 2026.
That's like all the people that they supposedly care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service of the USDA, does a lot to support farmers.
Yeah.
It's a very good resource. And that's crazy.
All these budget cuts are quite large. Again, these are proposed cuts by Trump himself. The administration as a whole, it looks like, are not going to make quite these large of budget cuts, at least not where he is proposing them. But it's still going to happen, and it's still going to be a lot of cuts. And these cuts are justified over and over again in the budget because, quote, there's matching funds from state, local, and private sources, making the funding duplicative.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a great idea to think that, our state and local orgs and private sources might be able to fund some of these things, but states don't have the money that the federal government has, just point blank simple. And I got way in the weeds and I looked at environmental spending in all 50 states by Ballotpedia. They have a really cool article from 2015. Was the most recent one I could find. But there's $23 billion budgeted by state agencies in 2015 for environmental spending. However, if you, divide that amongst 50 states, that's $500 million per state. And 4 states spent less than $30 million. So it's big states like California who just have a lot of people and a lot of land that are spending a ton of money and bringing that average up a lot. And then I looked at California's budget in particular for 2025 to 26, and only 2.4% of their spending is going towards conservation efforts. 2.4%. You compare that to some other states. Nebraska is 0.6% of their spending. Oklahoma is 2.2%. North Dakota 1.5%. I highlight these because these are, our Great Plains states where a lot of our grasslands are. I would tell you Kansas, however, their website was down and I tried to look at it, so I couldn't tell you what our budget for 2026 is.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm assuming that it's somewhere around 2%, since some of the other states were around 2% as well. It honestly shocked me that California was so low. And that is actually cut in half from last year's budget. They had about 4% of their budget going towards conservation efforts.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is insane. I also found through the Trust for Public Land, they were looking at which states have dedicated funding sources, like written into their laws. And the answer is not very many. Well, yeah, 14 states do not have any sort of dedicated funding written into their constitution through bonds, through like fees, housing development fees, stuff like that. Just don't have anything written into their laws. Kansas is one of those. A lot of the Great Plains states are part of these 14 states. This is as of 2023. I don't know if some other ones have joined the bandwagon. But yeah, that's shocking that 14 states just don't have any of this enshrined in law. It's just up to whoever's in power of that state that year to decide to fund these things.
Right. And it's relatively uncommon. It's in our situation in Kansas, there is just no money directly from the general tax fund that is put towards conservation. That is something that there's a broad coalition of support for changing that. But as it stands now, money for conservation comes from entirely voluntary contribution.
And states just rely a lot on federal funding. And that's probably not the best way to do it. Like, truly, if we're being honest with ourselves, states, to avoid situations like this in the future, should be more self-sufficient. But to just remove it right now when that system is not in place is extremely detrimental, and it's not going to work.
It's also really narrow in its focus, right? Like I hesitate when I catch myself saying things like that because I know that that's the reality that people doing this want me to believe. And so it gives me pause to say, like, what might be untrue about that. And from the experts that I have seen discussing the role of the federal government, they always reiterate, even while they're talking about ways to do conservation without the federal government, that there is no substitute for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And there cannot be a substitute for that, and that's integral. It's important, if only for reasons of like equity across the nation, and because we are providing benefits to the rest of the nation by protecting water. Like, our water resources are connected, our wildlife resources are connected. Political borders do not matter to environmental issues across our states. And so for that reason, I worry that we're falling into a trap by saying that we shouldn't rely on the federal government.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and if I was not trying to imply that that is the case, simply that removing those safeguards without the ability to do that is harmful.
Yeah. And it does highlight how vulnerable our systems are, and how little some of our local leaders have cared when it comes to putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just when it comes to funding for conservation in general, I think it is a non-controversial thing to say that this is something that everybody values on some level.
Yeah.
We all want to have clean air, clean water, healthy communities, and a thriving, natural world around us. When we get into the who's going to pay for it, for some reason, though, whatever price tag conservation carries is seen as like exorbitant.
Like it's a luxury.
Like it's a luxury, right? And which is insane. It is a fundamental key to our well-being as a society and as people. And also, it doesn't really cost that much. Okay,
No.
We're talking about the discretionary budget. I mean, most of that is going to defense and things like that, right? Like this is, we're talking about a tiny fraction that is currently used for our public lands. If we were to double that, it would still be a relatively tiny fraction. Okay, we one example we've talked about before is the CRP program. That creates a tremendous amount of habitat. It's payments directly to farmers to help create, pollinator habitat, wildlife habitat on their lands that are marginal or, used for intermittently, right? That creates an amount of habitat equivalent to like the size of the state of Indiana. And we've only spent in like the past 10 years, we've only spent like 18 billion on it. It's such a small amount of money. That's over a decade, right? Compared with, what?
I saw a report that 2 days of defense spending would fully fund the National Park Service.
Yeah.
Not even like its current budget, but fully fund it.
Yeah, which is insane. And instead, we've got the Great American Outdoors Act funding expiring this year, and the national parks have to are in a situation of like, well, we're between a rock and a hard place. We need the money again. It's like it's such a small amount of money that we're talking about in the grand scheme of things, and it's something that, again, I think we all agree that it has a value that's worth it.
Yeah. And other countries do it. Like we're exceptional in that we just refuse to get on the same page as everywhere else. That's I don't know. Like even China. Like I did a lot of research on one of their payment for working ecological services systems that they have in like specific provinces in China. That was specifically for grasslands. CRP doesn't even require landowners to have a grassland. They can just plant bluegrass and call it good, But in China, you have to have a native grassland. You might have to reduce how much grazing pressure you put on it. But the system is like automatic. You don't even have to enroll. If they were like, oh, you have like this many acres of conservation grassland land, you're automatically enrolled. You get direct deposits. It like goes, it's proportional to inflation. It's a system that works and you don't even have to do paperwork. Because they're just like, thank you for your ecological services. Here's some money. Because we value that because it makes our communities better. Like, my God, America. I mean, figure it out.
What a thing to invest in, I mean, what tremendous benefit, tremendous return on that investment. Great bang for the buck by putting that money towards, communities and farmers and habitat and improving our public lands. It'd be great.
But yeah, it's silly to think that because you stop, giving states money that they're just going to magically be able to do all this themselves, because they can't.
No. And you're cutting everything else. Like, do you think they're going to focus on education or conservation when you've cut everything they need? They're going to take care of their human children first.
And like make sure people are fed.
Like, my God.
Because that's was gone for a while too.
These
it still is.
Valid.
Depending right. It's like we have freaking priorities.
And that's
Anyways. If they even feed the human children, which a lot of them don't.
Right.
Sorry, I feel like I need a doom Klimbo.
Do it.
You've got
This
it.
is a good break.
Ooh. Really? Okay, Doom Kalimba. Let's see what we have. We need some hope, Nicole.
You want one from me?
Yeah.
Would you like to learn about specifically? No, I changed my mind. I'm just going to do what I want. Okay. I learned about recently the World Wildlife Fund's Sustainable Ranching Initiative. Have you guys heard of this before?
Yeah.
Okay. They just surpassed last year, their 1,000,000-acre enrollment trial period. They had a 5-year-long trial period where they wanted 1,000,000 acres enrolled into this program. Insane. But it started in 2020, so they just ended their trial period, and have 1.3 million acres of ranch land in their ranch systems and viability planning network, aka RSVP, which is a great name. Good job, guys.
Yeah, nice.
And they had 300,000 acres enrolled just this year. And RSVP gives landowners access to educational workshops and financial support, among other things. The land is also opened up to monitoring projects and scientific inquiries,
Nice.
such as bird, plant, and soil surveys. They do like water surveys, all sorts of really cool stuff. And the Sustainable Ranching Initiative also supports a reseeding program, which has restored over 45,000 acres of grassland in the northern Great Plains, 15,000 of which was just this year.
Nice.
So they are making huge strides, and it is growing a lot every single year, which is super cool.
Excellent.
That
That's
is really
good to
cool.
hear.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Thank you,
Sweet.
Nicole.
there's some hope still. But not where the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is concerned, which is our next topic.
Okay.
Hooray!
What do you have to say about that?
A lot. However, it's like over 330 pages, and that is largely cut from the original version, which was like over 700 pages.
Jesus.
Which is insane. And there's a whole other problem with that. But anyways, the parts that were taken out were parts of the act. I'm going to call it the BBB because the name makes me mad. But the parts of the BBB that were taken out removed the selling of public land. However, it doesn't really matter because, of course not, because there's about 175 million acres of land that is being opened up to really harmful practices like logging, oil drilling, stuff like that. So even though they're not being sold anymore, they are still being leased for about $5 an acre. And they also removed provisions that made it so that there is a minimum amount that you can sell. So the new minimum, if the land is deemed unusable or not in high demand, because we say it's not, then billionaires can come in and buy it for $1.50 an acre because they can't afford it. It's just so expensive.
And we're,
So we need to sell
Yeah,
it for
won't somebody
$1.50 an
Think
acre.
of the
Okay,
billionaire.
you're talking about leasing it, not
Leasing,
buying
yeah,
it.
leasing
Yes.
the land for $1.50 an
Correct.
acre for logging, for oil drilling, for what
Right.
have you.
Which, like, okay, then you don't even have to purchase the land. You just lease it, extract everything that you can get out of it, and then leave behind a wasteland.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
this. Love this.
And part of the BBB also increased fees to even use national parks, specifically for non-residents. And the most shocking part of that is that they changed what the fees can be used for. Rather than those fees going back to the parks. Those fees now cannot be used for biological monitoring or water monitoring or anything that would support the ESA. And those fees go back to a general fund. It doesn't even go back to conservation efforts.
Like the Treasury General Fund or the, okay.
Yeah.
Just like anybody in the United States can use that money to like send 20 billion to Argentina or something. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Again, more than 175 million acres of U.S. land is affected. That is the size of California, Florida, and Georgia combined by these reduced protections. And over 200 million acres are open to oil and gas now. And again, like even the land lease fees are going back to general funds. It's not going back to conservation work.
So literally extracting everything we can from it with no concern at all for
not even fixing it afterwards.
Not even monitoring what's happened.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's illegal to use the money to monitor.
Yes. Although they wouldn't be able to anyway because they have lost so much of their staff.
And they've shut down the departments that would do that. And yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's currently not enough people in the Bureau of Land Management's their rangeland managers. They just don't have enough of them to actually keep track of all this data or measure any amount of habitat damage that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Every rangeland manager is responsible for 716 square miles of space.
Jesus Christ.
That's a lot. If you've ever done habitat surveys, 716 square miles. That's a lot. Yeah.
On the stream crew, it took us all day to walk 4 miles of stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's very intensive.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started getting depressed reading about, and I want to be clear, the BBB is passed. Like, this is law. This is not like a lot of this other stuff that we've talked about. Some of it, at least, is conjecture. It's stuff that might happen. But like, this is law. Like, this is written. This is how it is right now.
It passed.
So yeah. Is some of it illegal? Probably. But I'm not a lawyer. And I did dive into specifically some of the leasing that is in there around timber. There's very similar things around like oil drilling and other such uses. But the timber information was most easily available, I guess. And it stood out to me. So that's why I wanted to focus on it. The BBB nearly doubles the amount of wood that can be taken from BLM lands. It puts no limit on how much to be taken year to year, but rather that there is a certain amount more that should be taken each year. Land conservation, at its most basic, implies that we should be limiting how much take. But the BBB says, okay, you took 50 acres, or I don't know how timber is quantified. You took 50 trees last year. Next year, you need to take at least 75. And the year after that, you need to take at least 100. And then 125. You have to increase how much you take each year. And that sounds ridiculous.
In what world does that make any sense?
Great question.
Yeah.
Because they want to increase profits every year. Like, that's written into it.
Okay.
Profits for...
I mean,
because the government's not giving that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like mandating corporate profits.
It goes to the general fund. It's just not going to conservation.
Wild. Okay.
There is a minimum number of sale contracts instead of a maximum. And the contracts must be at least 20 years long. And this is all very clearly laid out in the BBB. It's in a lot more words than I just used, but I read it over like 20 times to make sure I was understanding it correctly, because I was like, surely that's not correct. But it is. I even had someone else, I was like, this is how you're reading it, right? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So, yeah. And I already talked about a lot of the cuts that are written into this. In addition to, there's just so much in this. Like, it was impossible for people to keep up on it. And that's why it took a long time to pass, because people were trying to nitpick at it. But the final version still has a lot of the stuff that people were mad about and didn't want in there, but it was just hidden in a different way. Like how the public lands are still being taken and they're still being abused. They're just not technically being sold, but it's still there. They took out funds to address air pollution. The Clean Air Act was gutted through the BBB. Tons of ESA recovery plan guts. Low carbon material usage, greenhouse gas, environmental product declaration assistance, which is like how green was the manufacturing in this product. Methane emissions and waste reduction incentive programs were cut. Just so much. The green and resilient retrofit program that I mentioned earlier, where it's like, hey, you did a cool thing, you upgraded your house, here's some money to help with that cost, gone. There is a lot of termination of Green New Deal subsidies, like the Clean Vehicle Credit, or the Energy Efficient Home Improvement Credit, and the Energy Efficient Commercial Buildings deduction. So again, subsidizing people doing good things. Right. That's all gone now. And they also threw in some, just, because why not? They threw in some NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, review timeline changes, which are pretty significant. This was an act that was passed in 1970. It's considered one of the very first and most powerful conservation acts that we have, much like the ESA. And it requires federal agencies to assess environmental effects of proposed federal actions. In April, an emergency environmental assessment timelines were established that shortened the process to 14 days, and full environmental impact statements were required to be completed in 28 days. Previously, these timelines were 1 year and 2 years, respectively.
Yeah, because you cannot do an assessment in 1 month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the point, I guess.
Yeah. So that happened. The emergency ones, I believe, are no longer in effect. However, the BBB brought in an amendment where you can pay an extra 25% of your fee. So you pay 125% of the fee. And you can have the process expedited to just 180 days for the environmental assessments, or 1 year for the EIS, the environmental impact statement. So again, going from 1 year and 2 year, you pay a little bit extra and you can do 180 days and 1 year instead.
Yeah.
And that was just slipped into the BBB. I had no idea that was in there. But that's the thing now. If you have money, you can just, we've always known this, but if you have money, you can just say, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And just expedite the process, which means it's not going to be as effective.
Yeah. It also means that you can just throw money at anything and get whatever you want,
yeah.
which is what the people who paid for this administration to enact these regulations wanted.
And yeah, it's every single week there's something new. As difficult as it might be to engage with all of this and to stay informed about what's happening, you really do need to make the effort. And we try and we will try and provide what resources we use. We'll try and provide, what we know to be good and credible sources of information about this, because if you care about this the way that we do, you really do need to keep your finger on the pulse. This is all by design, right? They are coming in with this, move fast and break things attitude, and it happens so quickly, okay, that it can barely be registered in the news cycle. It's hard to stay abreast of all of it. But you do have to try, because this is huge. These what seem like small, line items and bills, these are going to have a huge impact. Yeah. And it's worth, it needs to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that I mentioned about the logging and stuff, that was maybe a half page out of 330 pages in the BBB. That's not even accounting for all the humanitarian tragedies that were wrapped up in there. SNAP benefits were discussed in the BBB. Mm-hmm. Student loans and just so many, so not that I'm saying those are equivalent, but just so many things were wrapped up into this one bill. And I honestly don't understand how it's even legal. But that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of cancel worms.
These giant omnibus bills. I also don't.
It shouldn't be that way. And I would say that no matter what it was about.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that because it's, Trump's administration. If Biden had done something like this, I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I mean, anybody can amend anything or attach anything onto a bill that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
And,
Suddenly trans people don't have health care.
Right.
Even though we're talking about like fires.
Yeah.
It's
The topics covered in this bill are absolutely outrageous. It was insane.
Speaking of paying attention to things, this is a small note because there's way too much to talk about when it comes to Mike Lee from Utah. If you've been paying attention, this one specific lawmaker is just hell bent on selling public lands. Every single time it's like he gets bullied into going, oh, whoops, you caught me. And then he slinks into the shadows. And then he releases something new or slips some other provision into some different bill. And then everybody goes, wait a minute, you're doing that again? And he's like, oh, whoops, you caught me. Oh, don't worry, I won't do that again. And he's just constantly trying to introduce things both into his own legislation and into other people's works. So that is a person to be keeping an eye on. I'm just going to share with you the most recent thing he did because there's so much whiplash with him just... I don't know why he keeps getting caught and then backing off and then going, don't worry, I'm going to try again in the future. So the latest thing he did was try to give the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, permanent authority to bulldoze public land within 100 miles of a border to stop environmental damage caused by... checks, notes, migrants. He cited litter, cut fences, and wildfires as some of the environmental threats that migrants pose to conservation. This is called the Borderlands Conservation Act. I'm just going to let you take a moment. And so the point of this bill, if you're listening, is bulldoze, develop, build on untouched wilderness to protect it from migrants.
Well, if there's no environment, then they can't destroy it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So,
you don't even need to protect it if it's a, if it's a Wendy's now.
Yeah. Then you get money.
So if you're wondering what is even impacted by 100 miles within the border, the following are just a few examples of some of the parks that the DHS could develop literally whatever they want on it with this legislation. Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
Big Bend.
Right.
Glacier National Park.
That's
Boundary
true.
Waters. Oregon Pipe. So like they could bulldoze, build roads, pave, build watchtowers, detention facilities on Joshua Tree to protect it from migrants.
Yeah. It's
Also, watchdogs note that this is almost certainly not because Mike Lee wants DHS specifically to have access to the land, but because he's hoping to set a precedent that would then allow other exceptions for private interests to get carved out to be allowed to develop those areas too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at least he's transparent with what he's all about.
I guess. But like, why get caught and go whoopsie?
Because at some point maybe he gets one through, maybe it's a numbers game, right? And it's wild. I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. I know More Than Parks Substack. They have they keep track. They have like a list of like the worst worst politicians against the environment. I'm pretty sure Mike Lee is number one, or at least he's near the top. But go look and check and see if your representative is on there, because that's good information to have. If this is something you value, it's good to know what they're up to.
And some of the people on that list purport to care about conservation. And I'm not saying that they're lying or not lying, but if they purport to care about conservation, then theoretically they should be interested in hearing what you have to say about their conservation policies.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
I hate to tarnish that reputation.
Yeah. Get out and vote,
right.
guys. Please.
Run for something. For something. Are you a disenfranchised scientist who lost their job? Become in charge of things and do things through a lens of science.
Yeah. Or help, This last election cycle was the first one in a while where I wasn't completely overwhelmed by doom and gloom. And I think that's like 99% because of me being involved more, which I was worried being involved more would make me more depressed. But it made me feel like I was actually making a difference, even if it was really small.
That's what the resistance grannies are saying too. Mm-hmm. You know, like, no, like there's like it's a whole thing.
This whole process, like we said earlier, this whole process doesn't have to happen without your input. And so you can, at the very least, let people know what you feel about it, whether that's an elected official, a public comment period, or if you are experiencing something, if you are on the brunt of any adverse actions that are happening, definitely tell other people about it. Don't suffer in silence with it.
Yes.
Let people know, hey, this is happening and this is not good.
Yeah.
And this is what, this is what's at stake.
Even potholes. I reported potholes and they got fixed within 2 hours. It was crazy.
The system works.
The system sometimes works. Yeah. And just to like, some words of encouragement. It is not easy to be involved civically and to like figure out how to like organize or like even figure out who's around you. I don't know. Somebody recently in a meeting like took a minute to like have us all take deep breaths and then like really laid out for us like this is work and it is hard to navigate. And so if you feel overwhelmed, that's normal. And it doesn't mean that you're bad at being involved politically. It's just like a hard thing to be involved in. So lean on whatever local stuff you have that can help you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If somebody gives you an email template, use it. Add a paragraph of your own thoughts or whatever. But it's hard to do. Mm-hmm. Like accept that. And then it becomes a little bit easier to manage how hard it is.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I guarantee you there's some people around you that would love to bring you into the fold and teach you how to do it. So,
yeah. Nice. Do you have anything else to say about Mike Lee?
No, I'm done with him.
Fantastic. Do you have anything else to say at all?
I have something about the privatization of national parks and some good news we haven't discussed.
Hell yeah.
Let's do the good news.
I have good news with a poison pill. What's that mean? It means that there's bad stuff on it also, but it was supposed to be good originally. It's about Trump's firefighters.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to be positive, and I was like, hey, that's a good thing that Trump did, because they did do some things right. The Wildland Firefighting Service actually puts money behind firefighting services, which is great. It's like actually supported. It's 4 times the funding for fire management compared to last year, which is great.
Sure.
It has permanent pay reform. Here's a quote from Will of More Than Just Parks. Quote, "For years, firefighters have been classified as forestry technicians, paid like baristas, and burned out by impossible workloads." Burned out, wink. The new budget locks in permanent pay reforms for both federal and tribal firefighters. So that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also puts a lot behind workforce building, training them and getting them equipment. And it also is supposed to bring in Congress. So it invites Congress to get involved, which means it's a much more public and transparent process of creating this fire service. The bad news was badder than I thought it would be, though, because kind of one of the other just general poison pill things that the current administration is trying to do is use good conservation policy to like mask private corporate extraction. Firefighting is one of those things. So basically recently it seems like fire management and wildfire prevention is being used as a tool to expedite industry extraction, especially of trees. It may be that this ends up being just another industry subsidy machine overall, even though there is a lot of good stuff happening. There's several examples of recent forest fire, quote unquote, fighting laws that are actually just trying to get industries to come in and extract trees. bad recent example is the Save Our Sequoias Act, which was reintroduced with bipartisan fanfare recently. And it had embedded provisions in it for aggressive intervention that included mechanical removal and road building through sequoias.
Ooh.
So basically, the current strategy is to take groves of old growth forests that have survived for centuries and reclassify them as liabilities in need of industrial treatment to protect us all.
Yeah. Again, you don't have to conserve anything if it's just not there.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's too many trees, and that's a fire hazard, which is also a story that Australia battles as well.
Oh.
The koala park that I already forgot the name of. That was something that they were battling. Like, it's like a main point on their website. They're like, no, these trees are not a fire hazard. Please let us save them for the koalas. Like,
Oh my God.
it's like,
Aw.
come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, poorly managed forests are fire hazard. So is a
Yeah.
grassland.
But note
Right.
what the firefighting service does not give money to any preventative measures or management of forests.
Yeah.
It's all about
Right.
suppression of fires. And then the only supposed preventable measures is like industry manufacturing activities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like a farce.
It is. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're not actually doing good things. Like, we do need money behind a firefighting service. We do need firefighters who don't feel like baristas, and who are getting paid and recognized for their dangerous work.
Why are so many firefighters volunteers?
What do you mean?
Why are so many nonprofit jobs volunteers? It's because people abuse passion.
But it's firefighting. It's objectively needed and like dangerous. It's so weird.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
I don't get it.
I don't know what to tell you either.
Weird.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, guys. Let's keep going.
Okay.
I hate it.
All right. Yeah, but is it me? Or do you
Yep.
want me to wrap this thing up?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
can save it for later. It's just privatization of the parks.
Go for
I don't
it.
think it needs to even be talked about. Consider cutting this. Yep, just some notes about more of like who's who and what's happening with extracting money from national parks. Kevin Lilly, who is a former private wealth manager, is running the National Park Service and also the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I don't know if he's currently in power still. It's so hard to tell. But he was put in place with like a loophole because of the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. So they just slid him in without any public scrutiny or congressional oversight into the position of acting Assistant Secretary for Fish and Wildlife and Parks, which oversees both the National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. His goal is to privatize stuff, extract value, and liquidate public land inventory. That's his mission.
Liquidate.
Nice.
Okay.
Yep. He's a guy who makes people money.
Yeah.
Also, there's a defense contractor named Booz Allen Hamilton who is getting rich. I know, it's spelled B-O-O-Z.
Okay.
B-O-O-Z.
This
Booz.
is one guy?
Booz Allen
Or is
Hamilton.
this like a firm?
No, it's a man.
It's a man.
Man.
It's a man. He owns a business or something.
Okay.
The thing about this is that it's very opaque, like to the point where like he's a defense contractor. He's been given a contract to run recreation.gov, which is the payment system that the National Park Service uses to do everything. And it's not run by the government. It's run by this fucking guy. And they take 100% of the junk fees that they install. They ensure that money does not go back into the parks. They get paid to do this. They're a contractor. The government pays them to take money. And not only has Congress been denied information about the terms of the contract, but Freedom of Information Act requests and public interest groups who have tried to get more transparency on what the nature of this contract is and how much money he's making off of this have been stonewalled.
Yeah.
Also, as all these other cuts have taken place, like this goes back before Trump, right? Since all of these recent cuts we've talked about have gone into place, they've kind of like leaned on this online payment system, this faceless online payment system to subsidize having any people working there. Like, there's been so many reports of like printer paper on a window with a QR code going, sorry, nobody's here, but like at least you can pay for your park pass. And like literally there might not be an internet connection for miles.
Yeah.
And 1 in 5 Americans doesn't even own a smartphone, but they're mandating that this be used for everything. You can't do on-site single day reservations anymore. They're like forcing people. It's like, it's just like a monetizing recreation for a grift to take money out of parks again and put it into some private guy's pockets. So that sucks.
Yeah. It was pitched as a money-saving opportunity for the parks. So
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, well.
I also would like to note that there is a slight new playback for, there is a new playbook for some of these cuts too, because the first administration, Trump's team was stupid about it and they cut everything, and it was really obvious because stuff like trash was piling up and the bathrooms were not clean. So some of the new policies and funding packages that have gone into place have specifically kept funding for janitorial services so that people don't notice that there's no park rangers or interpretation or habitat management, because at least the bathrooms still work. And so they're making it a little bit harder for the public to notice.
Sure. Right. My favorite part about going to a park is talking to the park rangers. I am sad if the building is closed.
Yeah. It's all part of the experience, you know?
Just got to talk to some nerds. Makes it all better.
Sure do.
Yep. Well, that's all the bad news I have.
Oh, yay.
Allan.
Okay. Well, so just to wrap up this
omnibus. Sorry.
Just to wrap up this this section and this episode, talking about Trump's public lands and waters, I just want to specifically address a couple things, because, like we said earlier, you know, it's that move fast and break things attitude, and things happen really just back to back to back. I just wanted to talk about a couple things that are happening right now, to position us, like, you know, as of this episode being released, you know, today is December 9th. We're recording this, just telling you what's happening right now, because it's a lot. So, one of the big things that the administration is actively engaging with is the repeal or the proposed repeal of the Bureau of Land Management's Conservation and Landscape Health Rule. This is also known more commonly as the Public Lands Rule. If you're not familiar with that, this is a rule that is very recently created. It was actually it was enshrined as in 2024 by the Biden administration. And this is incredibly important because what it does is it takes the multi-use concept, okay, that the Bureau of Land Management operates under, multi-use being anything from recreation to logging to mining to oil and gas, to grazing, etc. It takes that multi-use framework and it puts conservation as equal footing as a legitimate use of BLM land, alongside all of the extractive uses that we're accustomed to. That is hugely important. It puts ecological restoration and protection at the forefront, okay, of any planning and project decisions that this agency is doing. Okay, huge. Now, also, as we said earlier, the Bureau of Land Management, they have a huge amount of rangelands and grasslands, okay, under their control. They are responsible for 155 million acres of rangeland. To put that in state terms, since nobody knows how big an acre is, that is an area that's a little bit larger than the state of Texas. That's how much rangeland, shrubland, grassland, savanna, okay, that the Bureau of Land Management manages. All right. Huge amount. It's also those rangelands are home to more than 300 endangered species of animal and 2,400 at-risk species, according to Defenders of Wildlife. So this is a big deal. Okay. Taking away that rule that elevates conservation as legitimate use, while at the same time opening up these leases, and giving these leases away for pennies on the dollar to extractive use. It's a really bad situation. It's also worth noting, this conservation rule, the public lands rule, it had immense public support. 92% of the 152,000 public comments landed in favor of that rule. They just completed the public comment period on the rescission of the rule. And in that situation, 98% of people spoke out against rescinding the rule. This is not a partisan issue. Yeah. It is as simple as we're talking, more than 9 out of 10 people, all right, believe that this land has value, that it's worth protecting, that it deserves to be protected, that these public lands are integral to our identity as a country. Okay. They belong to us, to the people of this country, and they have worth. Okay. Like that's not a controversial thing to say. And the data bears that out. Okay. So what about that 2% of people who are in favor of it, right? That's what we want to know about, right? What could possibly be their deal? So when we're looking at that, and this follows the trend that we've established this whole episode, which is that we are looking at the entire environmental approach of the Trump administration, the deregulation agenda, the treatment of public lands. It is all to benefit very specific, very wealthy parties. Full stop. There's really, nothing else really needs to be, there's very little nuance to it. Honestly, it is directly to the benefit of very wealthy business interests and special interests. There's actually a really interesting piece just this last week from ProPublica and High Country News that looked at ranching on public lands, because that is a big use of these BLM rangelands. It is opened up to grazing, public grazing. Their findings found that the wealthiest 10% of ranchers are responsible for over 2/3 of the grazing that happens on BLM lands. Again, this is these ranching, these grazing fees are far below market rates. Okay, we're talking about like an 85% discount from what they would be paying on private lands.
Wow.
And the people, these low, discounted rates are implemented with the idea of helping small ranchers, small farmers to be able to use that public land for their cattle, their stock.
How DEI of them.
Right. It's trying to help, to help the little guy. In reality, it is absolutely the wealthiest 10%, are the ones sort of sucking the air out of the room. They are taking up all of that space, literally. Some of the, for example, some of these BLM lands, again, these are our public lands, are being leased and utilized by not just wealthy people, obscenely wealthy people, as in these are household names. People like the Murdochs, the Kochs, the Rockefellers, they all own cattle ranches for a variety of reasons. And they are taking a tremendous amount. Rupert Murdoch's ranch, for example, encompasses 340,000 acres, 2/3 of that which is public land.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay.
That is shocking.
That's huge. We don't even have that much. I don't think we have that much parkland. Like, we don't have that much, like, that's larger than the Kansas State Park System.
Yes.
Like, that's a huge amount of land.
Rupert Murdoch is
Rupert
getting
Murdoch.
those subsidies?
And
Jesus.
yes, and that's the thing. It's not just limited to wealthy individuals. It's also companies, right? Mining companies are among the biggest public land ranchers. Okay,
Oh.
mining companies. Why? Because when they open up, like if you're mining, pit mining or strip mining if you've leased the land for that, okay, if you lease all the land around it for grazing permits, it gives you greater control over what's happening in that area.
Sure.
Oh.
Okay, so
Keeps from neighbors getting mad at you too.
exactly. So
Oh,
copper
gosh.
mining companies like Freeport McMoRan, Hudbay Minerals, and Rio Tinto all run huge cattle operations in Arizona, for example, because again, it helps them to better manage their situation. These are again a public land, huge amounts of it going to very, very wealthy corporate and private interests.
Yeah.
It's a great article. We'll post the link on it. Some really good reporting. And it's worth checking out because, again, this is as one person interviewed in the article said, it's a massive government subsidy. And it provides little to no benefit to taxpayers.
Wow.
The bottom half of ranchers account for less than 4% of the usage on BLM lands.
God.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about the trend again that we're seeing with this administration over and over again is basically using our public lands and deregulating environmental protections as just a manner of wealth transfer.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It is they are just trying to take as much profit as they possibly can while the game is good. And then they're, we're left with the aftermath, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So
Whatever it may be. We may not even know because they've cut our ability to find out.
I mean, yeah.
yeah. So
And not to say that these programs should not exist, but they could be changed so that they are more equitable.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, in concept, it's a great thing.
yeah.
In concept, there's a way to do it right.
Yes.
Absolutely. But in practice, it is, it's a cash grab is what it is.
a cash grab for people who are already wealthy and connected.
Who don't need it at all.
They don't need it. They don't need that
it.
subsidy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's very frustrating. And we're just going to see more of that as extractive uses of public lands are beginning to ramp up. Not only, our rangelands, but also in the last couple of weeks, they opened up at 1.27 billion acres of offshore drilling leases. So yeah, there's just a lot. And this, this deregulatory agenda, this cash grab is they're going to stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they will have to answer for it at some point.
Yeah.
Because 98% of people, for example,
Yeah.
are against what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, it's really important that we be aware of it, that we see it happening, that we add our voices to that mix, and that we take action when the time is right.
Yeah.
When we're invited to, again, give our input into this process, because, you got to stop it.
Yeah, and keep an eye out on everybody as we're talking about, getting in contact with these lawmakers and watching their moves and voicing your opinion. There are so many Democrats and independents who are also happily selling off your public lands and allowing this extraction. So if you're thinking like, my rep won't listen to me because I'm on a different political side than them, your own side might be extracting those resources too and might be more accountable to you. Don't take anything for granted. Look at their actions. Look at what they've actually voted for.
And inaction, too.
And inaction.
Because at this point, not speaking up is as bad as selling it off. So,
Yeah.
And at this point, there's a lot more people working to make wealthy people more wealthy than it seems like there are fighting for us. So,
yes, indeed.
absolutely.
Beat them up.
Yes.
Metaphorically.
I did want to give me a kalimba here. I'll give you some hope to wrap up this episode with.
I've got hope too.
We'll give some.
I don't know the notes. It's going to be really bad.
It doesn't matter. Oh, it's like rain. It's pretty. Okay. Just a couple things to be hopeful about. We do want to, for all the doom and gloom that we're talking about, we need to give the caveat that all of these actions are going to be contested through the legal system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Trump administration is being brought to court at an insane rate. As it stands right now, Lawfare's litigation tracker shows 253 active cases against the Trump administration in federal district court right now, as of yesterday, December 8th. As of November 19th, there were 63 multi-state actions. That means the attorneys general of states suing the president together. Okay. 63 of those are going on, according to the Progressive State Leadership Council. There are injunctions every day. There are court orders, every day. So there are new rulings that will come from this. So, this agenda, because it is, how might you say, shamelessly breaking the law, will fortunately have to meet with the reality of the court system. And so a lot of it will be shut down, we can hope. That doesn't necessarily mean that they won't continue to break the law anyway, but we have to have some faith in our institutions still. And again, we'll post our methods that we use to keep informed about this, because you have to. I'll leave it with a quote. This is from Andrew Mergen. He's an environmental law professor at Harvard, and he says, it's really hard for the public to keep track of this news, but so important that you do. We're going to lose species and their habitats, and a death by 1,000 cuts weighs, but there are things that can be done to right the ship and help these species recover. He knows what he's talking about. I'll trust that. Yeah. There, don't let the doom, take you, be the, get your kalimbas out. And it'll be all right.
Yeah. Don't forget to leave a comment on the, ESA comment periods again.
Yeah.
Those, links are in the description.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Rachel, you have some hope you want to leave us with?
I have some hope. My good news comes from the Roman Catholic Church. I am not a Catholic. I'm not saying you should believe their beliefs or convert to Catholicism, I'm none of that. But the Roman Catholic Church is a powerful institution globally, and they're doing some really cool, powerful stuff that genuinely makes me feel hope, because it's really cool to see. There's two instances I have examples of. On July 1st, bishops from the Global South published a 34-page statement called A Call for Climate Justice and the Common Home. And basically these bishops' conferences from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean called on world leaders to address the climate crisis, but also specifically to denounce false solutions that place profit over common good. Here's a quote from the article, or from the statement. The climate crisis is not just a technical problem. It is an existential issue of justice, dignity, and care for our common home. They also went on to say, the bishops, we reject false solutions such as quote-unquote green capitalism, technocracy, the commodification of nature, and extractivism, which perpetuate exploitation and injustice. So they did not mince words. They said, nice. Not only do we need to do something, we have to stop this extractive policy that benefits none of us.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then recently, the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Brazil was November 10th through the 21st, where Pope Leo spoke, and he carried this theme into that stage. He urged countries to take concrete actions to stop climate change. He said, quote, "1 in 3 people live in great vulnerability because of these climate changes. To them, climate change is not a distant threat, and to ignore these people is to deny our shared humanity." Also in direct contrast to Lee Zeldin saying that climate change itself is a religion and we have to stab a stake through its heart or whatever, the Pope said, quote, "As stewards of God's creation, we are called to act swiftly with faith and prophecy to protect the gift he entrusted to us." And he said that it was the failing is the political will of some, not our agreements, like the Paris Agreement that is failing, but the political will of some. I find this all very genuinely uplifting. He also said you literally cannot call yourself a disciple of Jesus Christ without sharing his orientation toward creation. And I just think it's really nice to see religious leaders coming out with their full chest and saying not only is taking environmental and conservation action a religious necessity for our global powerful religion, but it's also the human good and right thing to do, because it is.
Yeah.
And good for them.
Yeah.
Power to the Pope. I guess. I don't know.
Never thought I'd hear you say that. But no, I mean, that's right. And he's from Chicago. So, he's not some like, European, whatever. He's
a Chicagoan.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought about doing a voice for him and I was like, wait, no, he's American.
Well, thank you for that, Rachel.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys for listening and supporting. This is going to wrap up season 4 of The Best Biome. Our sources and our resources are going to be in the show notes, and we are going to be taking a little break here, but keep follow us on social media, and we will always be keeping an eye on this stuff, keeping you informed as best we can. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you later.
We love you all. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.